Cloudcast Media. Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and we are so thrilled to have on this iconic organization with this iconic community leader joining us, and that is Sharyn Goodson, the Vice President of Philanthropy for the Leichtag Foundation and Impact Cubed. And I just can't tell you what a pleasure it is to have you on. And we've been chatting with Sharyn with San Diego Gives for quite a while now, but now we get to talk about the great things going on with the Leichtag Foundation and Impact Cubed. How you doing?
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, talk about the Leichtag Foundation. When did it start and all the unbelievable things you folks have been doing?
Yeah, so the Leichtag Foundation started in 1991 as a family foundation, and the family were led by Lee and Tony Leichtag, and it worked very closely as a tight family foundation for a number of years, and the family had decided that they would leave 98% of their wealth to the community. They really felt that they were products of the community, that they had really benefited so much from really the American dream. And so they left a fortune for the foundation to distribute.
And so it's got obviously an endowment, a massive endowment, I imagine, correct?
It actually doesn't have an endowment.
Oh, really?
It's actually a spend down foundation.
Gotcha. Okay. Is there a date in mind?
You know, it's a spend down without a particular date in mind.
Okay.
And the thought behind that was really a strong sense that there was great urgency in the needs that were needing to be addressed now. And so the Leichtag board really felt that, probably it would be about 18 or so years after the passing of Lee Leichtag. So originally, they were thinking to sunset the organization in 2025. And then in December 2012, the foundation purchased a 67.5-acre property in Encinitas. And so now having an asset and really also running a number of programs, we still see the foundation as sunsetting, but don't have a particular date.
Right. And what's Impact Cubed?
So Impact Cubed is an independent nonprofit organization that really is a catalyst for philanthropy and can serve philanthropists with consulting for their giving needs, can serve as a fiscal sponsor, administrative source for aligned projects like San Diego Gives, and we have other projects as well.
Now, is there any connection with that in the foundation?
Yeah, well, at this point, yes, the Leichtag Foundation created Impact Cubed.
Okay, gotcha.
Because we've kept finding ourselves in the midst of funding collaboratives, and with some of the different rules that go along with donations, it's very difficult for private foundations to give to other private foundations. Much better to have a public charity. So that's kind of how we started it.
Right. So how long have you been interested in doing just great charity work? I mean, your whole life?
Yeah, I think my whole life. I mean, I've always been really interested in helping people in very tangible ways. It's kind of I've been really lucky. This is the perfect job for me.
Yeah, no, that's terrific. Were you raised here in San Diego?
Actually, no, in LA.
What part of LA?
In Beverly Hills, so the west side. Although I always couch that by saying it's the Pico Robertson area.
Okay.
So not the.
I know it well.
Yeah.
I grew up on Sunset and Church Lane. My dad taught medicine at UCLA. And so
of course.
I got to, and he had his office in La Cienega Boulevard, not too far from Pico and Robertson.
There you go. Yeah.
In that area. So where'd you go to school out there?
I went to Beverly High, 90210.
Yeah. I know. And my cousins went there.
Yeah.
Talk about Fundraising Fridays.
Yeah, I love Fundraising Fridays. Thanks for asking. It's a project that we started about almost 2.5 years ago, right after COVID began. And it's a partnership of Leichtag Foundation, the North County Philanthropy Council, Association of Fundraising Professionals, San Diego, and the San Diego Plan Giving Partnership. And basically, it is an informal time for fundraisers or like aligned fundraisers to come together, ask questions, get advice, network with one another. It's really been a huge success. We thought it might go a few times, and it's been going strong 2.5 years. We still, even now, have 40 to 50 people who join us every Friday morning.
Right. Now, do you have to sign up for that? Do you have to become a member? How's that work?
It's very easy. We do have people register, so they get a Zoom link, but you don't have to come anytime. Particularly, you come when you can. I joke that I can always tell when there's a grant deadline or something happening because a lot of the grant writers aren't joining us.
Right.
But we love for just people to come, relax, get the help that they need. We love when pets or kids are on the call as well. It really kind of was born in the COVID mindset.
Right. And so, the topics are wide. It's whatever the folks on the line want to talk about, basically?
Absolutely. It can run the gamut of who's a great auctioneer for our upcoming event to even backing up, who's having in-person events. I mean, that's what a lot of our initial pieces were. We talk a lot about funding opportunities. We share funding opportunities. I'm in a really lucky position as being a funder and leading this and with connections to other foundations. And I'm really proud of that. Since we've been doing this, Fundraising Fridays has raised over $3 million.
Wow.
For the organization. So they've learned something or they've found out about a job opportunity that then has benefited their organizations.
No, that's fantastic. We're chatting with Sharyn Goodson, Vice President of Philanthropy for the Leichtag Foundation and Impact Cubed. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. As you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community. It's brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, doing great things for San Diegans for more than 60 years. Yeah, I get this question quite a bit. I'd love to see how you can define it. What's the difference between philanthropy and sponsorship? I'd love to see your answer, and I'll give you mine.
It's interesting. Almost I think the definition is personal, in a sense, because I guess we can say, the real definition of philanthropy is love of humankind.
Right.
And you could almost say, I could make an argument that sponsorships are philanthropy, vice versa. Sponsorships often fall into the marketing area of an organization and business. But these are still, sponsorships are not something that has to happen. And so I still, I kind of put them very, very closely aligned.
Yeah, and they are closely aligned. I mean, my definition of it, I ran community and public relations, as you know, for quite a while at the Union Tribune, and I try to explain, listen, philanthropy, right or wrong, is we're giving you a donation, knock yourself out, no strings attached, do whatever you want to do with it. Sponsorship that's a quid pro quo. We're going to give you money or space, which is money, to do something, but we want this in back. Recognition at the event, have you sell our newspaper, do the hokey pokey and that. And it's, I think when we mentioned to people about that, we need something back with a sponsorship, but philanthropy, listen, if you want to recognize us in the program, we're not going to turn that down in that aspect. Would you consider, before we go to break, San Diego being a very philanthropic region, county, based on, we're not a Fortune 500, place with a zillion of them running around, but where are we in terms of philanthropy? How would you define it?
I think this is a very generous community. I really do. I think that there is a lot of wealth. We're very fortunate here. There are also big pockets of need. And we may not have as many large, institutional philanthropic organizations, foundations, et cetera, particularly when compared to Los Angeles or San Francisco. But our giving here, is robust. And I think what I often talk with nonprofits about is, really the focus being on individual donors more than actually, organizations.
Right. When we come back from break, Sharyn, let's chat about something I think it is so important to hear from your mouth, and that is the foundations have expectations from the organizations they give, and those expectations are usually set before the grant was made. This is what we'd like you to do, and so forth. But you just don't let them go, and that's it. And I'll see you in 15 years. You folks stay shoulder to shoulder with them. So, and again, you guys are the poster child for foundations. You guys do such an amazing job, and always have, and a lot of that due to your leadership. When we return with Sharyn Goodson, Vice President of Philanthropy for the Leichtag Foundation and Impact Cubed, I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, as you're listening to another edition of Spotlight on the Community.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and you're listening to another edition of Spotlight on the Community. We are brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, doing great things for San Diegans for 60 years, chatting with Sharyn Goodson, Vice President of Philanthropy for the Leichtag Foundation and Impact Cubed, and talking about their fundraising Fridays, the background on the, literally the iconic Leichtag Foundation. Anyone who's been in San Diego knows that the footprint they have leave is just so great, and it's not checkbook philanthropy, folks. It's the exact opposite. They're in there with you shoulder to shoulder doing types of things. And so talk about how that's important, that from both of those, from Impact Cubed and also philanthropy at the Leichtag Foundation, your expectations for the folks you're granting funds for.
Right. Thank you. For sure. We have really very early on made the decision to be much more than just a check writer. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being a check writer. No. And organizations need those, and that is great. And honestly, if an organization doesn't need our involvement, we don't impose ourselves either. We have done that as well. But we created a set of tools when we created our funding strategies. And those are things that we can do that don't involve money, don't involve funding. So they are bringing people together, convening, using our voice for the greater good, partnerships, fostering collaboration. We provide a lot of technical assistance to nonprofits, really trying to position them for success with other funders, and success with getting grants from the Leichtag Foundation as well. It's very, in fact, I think since I've been there, which is 12 and a half years, I only remember really honestly one grant that was declined by our board of directors per recommendation made by staff. By the time a grant gets to our board for approval, we've worked so much with the organization to position them for success that they're successful.
So in that point, so then let's say as people are listening to this interview and, 8,000 nonprofits, depending on what you and I have talked about this before, which number you're going to use. But one says, listen, I want to get a hold of the Leichtag Foundation. I want to start the process. What do I do? How does that work?
Well, being part of a spend down foundation,
Right.
Honestly, we have sort of, at this point, limited our grant making.
Right.
And have an eye on really decreasing that over the next few years.
Right.
So the other part of our work that's, still going, strong, are these other capacity building pieces.
Right.
So we aren't, at this point, serving organizations that we haven't served in the past. We just didn't feel that was the best thing to do in order to create sustainability with the organizations that we have had long relationships with. And that's been going on for a while now.
Right. So then if you haven't already been the beneficiary of the Leichtag Foundation, nothing's impossible in this world, but probably unlikely that something's going to pop up unless you or your board says, you know what, this group has come out of nowhere. They're doing unbelievable things. Let's do a little vetting on these. How closely do you work with one of my favorite organizations, the San Diego Women's Foundation?
Love the San Diego Women's Foundation. All of the women's foundations are fantastic.
They are?
Yes, of course. And, over the years, we've worked with them in different ways. We love it when they host their events and programs on our property. That's one thing I hadn't mentioned yet. We are on this 67-acre property
Right.
that we use as a platform for not only building up our programs and grantees, but really providing an opportunity for other funders to hold their events and et cetera. So the San Diego Women's Foundation has definitely taken advantage of that. We've also been members now.
Yeah. I'm the first male charter member. I'm very proud of that. I think on their advisory committee or some of that effect. Because from Tracy Johnson, from Linda Katz, who was part of starting this, and it's a great model. Of course, it's collective philanthropy, as you know, is terrific. What advice do you give to nonprofits that listen? If you're going to ask for money, this is what you should be prepared to do. Mm-hmm. And of course, we can talk for 5 hours on that topic, but maybe in a nutshell.
For sure. I think if you're prepared, if you want to make that kind of a request, it's really important to tap into your why. So we kind of talk about why. What is going to happen? What is going to be improved as a result of that? I often talk about it being more of a even so what. So we give you the grant, what happens? And to really be able to describe that in terms of the story, which you know very well because that's what you guys are all about, or really sharing the story,
right.
And having a good amount of quantifiable expectations as well.
Right. I think that's a really good point. What I always tell folks, and I've been honored to be on a variety of boards, as you know, but when people ask me for my advice, I said, I'll give you my 2 cents and you can give me change back. Mm-hmm. And most people give me more than 2 cents back in that aspect of it. But I say, listen, it's no different than in my previous life as a journalist, is what is unique? What is different of what you do? There's a lot of people that are youth-serving organizations, all doing great stuff. Some with a staff of a half a person and some with a staff of 250 people. But what is going to make you stand out that's going to look at that foundation or that company that has a foundation? And I think that's really important. Do you agree? Absolutely. I mean, it's about differentiating yourself, but doing so in a positive way. I really would urge nonprofits to be careful not to ever say anything negative about another organization, and also not to say that they are the only ones doing something. When we run, that happens, then we run the risk of somebody finding out there is somebody else doing something. Yeah, that's such great advice. We're chatting with Sharyn Goodson, Vice President of Philanthropy, the Leichtag Foundation, Impact Cubed. I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you're listening to Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show on Cloudcast Media, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. Some of the stuff is just so common sense, but as you know, Sharyn, you know as well as anyone, if not more than anyone, that a lot of people don't know how to navigate in the nonprofit world. And I'm talking about the for-profits as well, and so forth. And you're so spot on. I tell people this all the time. Never, and I've been doing this since 2007, the show, believe it or not, is that ask for money. Money turns lights on. Money provides the services that your constituents need. Never feel bad about asking for money. If there's other things that money, if the group can't do that, they can give you computers, they can give you services, they can give you programs, all the stuff you talk about, then do that. But listen, never be ashamed to ask for money, because it turns lights on, and we all know that. And I think one of the other things is, there are obviously some nonprofits that got huge marketing budgets, and they shouldn't be faulted for that. Good for them, but most of them don't. And just because you're small and you hit this group of people, if you don't think you're important, you're wrong on that. You agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even just by asking for money, even putting in, an initial application, which I would even suggest backing up a little bit and trying to create a relationship with the funder first, so they're not getting an application cold. You're creating awareness. They may say no. You have to have a thick skin in this business. I tell people, people tell me no all the time, and I don't necessarily like it, but it's just part of the work. Right.
But there's a way of turning a no into a yes. And it's so funny you say that. One of the things we were real proud of at the Union Tribune, I would tell my staff, listen, we might not be able to sponsor X, we might not be able to give you money for X, but what we can do is, if this is compelling, we can get you on our radio show, Spotlight Show, or give us a press release. We'll make sure it gets to the right person in the newsroom. No guarantee it runs, but it's not going to go in some circular file. And then we started something on our website where you can actually promote your event. And now you're turning this no into, we can do these things.
Oh, wow.
And they look at, a big company actually got back to me, because I'm still waiting to hear from these people, and it's been a year and all that. I think that's great advice on not being frustrated in that area. Talk about research. One of the things we used to chat about is, if you are a nonprofit that deals in X, make sure the people you are pitching, that's part of their philanthropic focus. Talk about that.
Absolutely. It's one thing to say that you want to try to make the most of any ask and try not to be limited by requirements, but there are some basic requirements that you just need to pay attention to. For instance, do they fund a particular geographic area? We got we've gotten applications from all over the world, and mostly I feel badly. That's an investment of time and money that organization made, and even if we wanted to help them, we can't. And also to realize that some of the guidelines that foundations set were set by founders. They're really by law have to be abided by. So I think taking a look at that's where creating that relationship is so important. A phone call, even an email exchange with some professionals or family members, et cetera, can make a lot of difference.
Yeah, you're so spot on, and it's something we've said quite a bit on the show and so forth. Is establish that relationship, and it may take time, And I tell you what, funders love is that when you say no, the organization goes, "Hey, I appreciate that. Can I come in and meet with you? And maybe what could I have done to this?" And I remember there was one guy, you may know his name, Greg Sarametis. Greg ran Art Walk, and then eventually worked for I think the U.S. No, he worked for one of the Olympics. I wasn't sure if it was USOC or he worked for a brand, but I remember we turned him down, and he called and said, "Hey, thanks, I really appreciate you were very, told me why and all that. Can I come in and meet with you guys?" Sure. Great guy. Met with him, and then we wound up sponsoring Art Walk forever because he made some shifts. I said, don't change it just because of us, but if it makes sense and it helps the organization. So talk about that too. About get some advice from people, and not change your mission because you're not getting money, but you may be able to tweak some stuff.
Absolutely, and ask other funders. Ask the funders if they know of anybody that might be interested. So again, asking for some counsel. There's that old adage that, if you want money, ask for advice. And if you want advice, ask for money. That's really true. And you can do some fantastic networking and make connections just by those referrals.
Yeah, and that hits another point that you're so spot on. Network, and even more network. And if you don't think that stuff works, then you haven't been in this space.
Right.
Whether it's small chamber events, whether it's EDC stuff, whether it's big events, and do it more than once, because then someone's going to recognize you. Hey, I remember I saw you at the Boys and Girls Club gala yesterday, or you were at the Ramona Chambers deal. Sharyn, we got about a minute or so to go. What final comments would you give to folks that are in the nonprofit world looking for support?
I would say hang in there. Join us for Fundraising Fridays if you're not already with us. We'd love to be of help to you. You can find information about us on our website, which is www.leichtag.org. And same with Impact Cube, www.impactcube.org.
Well, really appreciate it. You are an iconic person in an iconic organization doing great things, and you just can't help yourself, because that's it. And that's so it's fun to do these things. And promise me somewhere down the road you come back on, maybe bringing in some people that have benefited from what you've done. That's our favorite thing, is to here's the organization, now here are the people they've really helped. I just can't tell you how much I enjoy chatting with you. Thank you for the partnership with San Diego Gives and Cloudcast. And all I can say is onward and upward, and we're continue to do great things in the community.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Sharyn Goodson. She's the Vice President of Philanthropy for the Leichtag Foundation and Impact Cube. I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you've been listening to Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show on Cloudcast Media, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing terrific things to San Diegans for 60 years.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.